I'm Gary Rebholz, and I'm here to announce Vegas Pro 18 today. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about Vegas Pro, the new features of Vegas Pro 18. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail because there are so many features that I just want to get through an introduction of all of those for you. But we do have more training sessions planned for the rest of August. We'll be doing this every Monday in August, and hopefully in the future ones I'll remember to unmute my microphone so you can actually hear what I'm saying. But we will be talking in more detail about the new features of Vegas Pro in a couple of weeks. And we also announced today that we have released Vegas Post Suite. That's the new version of Vegas Post, which we introduced last year. And we've updated all of the applications in Vegas Post, and so now we're calling that Vegas Post Suite. And in the next couple of weeks, I'll spend some time talking about those as well. So we've got a lot planned during August, and I'm looking forward to presenting all of this stuff to you. Now I'm going to have to look over here every once in a while for my notes because I've got a long list of features that I want to talk about, and I don't want to forget any. Like I said, I won't be able to go through all of these features in detail just because there's so many of them. So I'm just going to kind of shoot down the list and talk about them briefly. The first thing I want to talk about that is that we've also today announced that we're not done with Vegas Pro 18 yet. I've got a bunch of new features that I'm going to show you, but we're also announcing several new features that are yet to come that will be available to you in a free update later down the road if you purchase Vegas Pro now. And those are really exciting features, and they all revolve around Vegas Pro and something that we're calling the Vegas Hub. And the Vegas Hub is going to be an online storage location for you that you can put your media and so forth on. But it goes so much deeper than just an online storage solution. We're going to be announcing Vegas Hub, but around the Hub are several different things. Vegas Pro is one of those things, and you'll be able to access your files and everything from right inside Vegas Pro. But we'll also be introducing a new application, a new mobile app for your iOS or Android devices called Vegas Transfer. Vegas Transfer will enable you to move your media files from your mobile device up into your cloud storage on the Vegas Hub and make them available to you through Vegas Pro. Also, we'll be releasing a digital media asset management tool called Vegas Prepare. And this tool will allow you to create a library of your media. You'll be able to organize it into collections however you see fit, based on the content of the media or based on project, however you like to do it. And you'll be able to tag individual media files to sort and search for files. So it'll be a complete system of asset management, and it'll all communicate through the Hub. And so all of these things will communicate with Vegas Pro through a new window that will be in Vegas Pro when we release this, called the Hub Explorer window. And what it really is a complete system of storage in the cloud, communicating with your local projects, and a system that'll help you collaborate with others regardless of where your colleagues are located. And we're really excited about this development, and we'll be starting to roll this out in October of this year with the release of the Vegas Hub, Vegas Transfer, and the Hub Explorer window inside Vegas Pro. Vegas Prepare will follow sometime later in the year, and when we get it all in place, you'll have a complete system for working with files that you've backed up in the cloud or that you've stored in the cloud, working with remote collaborators and so forth. So there's a lot going on around Vegas, the Vegas brand right now, and there's a lot in Vegas Pro, but there's a lot of other stuff that's coming, and it's an exciting time. So again, all of that hub-related stuff will be released starting in October. It's not in the current version, it's not in the initial release, but it's coming. And when it does come, you'll be able to have access to like the Vegas Hub Explorer window for free. It'll be a free update. Okay, so now let's talk about what is in the current version, the current release, the initial release of Vegas Pro 18. And again, I'm going to go through these relatively quickly just to introduce you to them, and then over the next several weeks we'll go into a little bit more detail on some of them. So in general, what we've done with Vegas Pro 18 is we've really listened, as usual, we try to listen very closely to what you guys tell us. And in addition to asking for new features, which you guys provide amazing feature requests, and we're always happy to get those and to try to deliver as many of those as possible. But we've also had several requests over the year for polishing up some of the existing features, for continuing the work that we started with some of the features that we've introduced over the last several years. And the message is, yeah, we want new stuff, but we want Vegas to continually evolve and make it even easier to use. And so we spent a lot of time looking at some of the features and deciding how we can make the user experience more seamless and just help you work faster. And so many of the features that we'll go over that are new in Vegas Pro some of them are brand new, some of them are refinements to existing features. And so we'll talk about all of those. The first one that I want to mention is the new dedicated motion tracking panel. So let me just grab a couple files here, or a file. And again, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about this, but I do want to show it to you. So if you recall, in earlier versions, the motion tracking tools were sort of buried in the Bezier masking tool. And that caused a number of problems. For one thing, it was sometimes hard for you guys to find it and to figure out how to use it. But it also caused problems with how to apply the motion tracking to text or to effects and so forth. And so the new motion tracking panel addresses those problems and gives you a dedicated panel. To find it, you can just click the hamburger menu button, and you can see there's motion tracking option in the hamburger menu. There are other ways to get to it, but this may be the easiest one. And here's the motion tracking panel. Probably easier for you to see it if I turn myself off and bring the screen up. So here's the screen, and here's the panel. I'm going to close this and go back to the hamburger menu so you can see where I got to it. So I just click the hamburger menu and choose motion tracking. Okay, so all the tools you need are right here in the motion tracking panel. Bree is sending me a note that she doesn't see the motion tracking panel. I'm assuming she does now because I've brought the interface up, but Bree, leave me another note if you're still having trouble seeing it. The motion tracking panel has all the tools that you need that you were able to find in the Bezier masking tool in earlier versions, but also brings some of those, in the old version, in the old method, you had to run some scripts to tie your motion tracking to text or to effects, and you no longer need to do that. So if I wanted to motion track, I wanted to track the motion of this clip here. Let's just trim it down a little bit just so we don't have to work with so much of it. But if I wanted to track this motion, I can click the Add a Region button, and that creates a mask in my preview window that I can move wherever I want to move it. Let's just put it over the top of this truck here. And then I can add more, or I can delete tracks. I've got a number of different regions that I can use. I can even track outside of the region. So for some reason I wanted to define a region and then track everything that was outside of that region, I would just click this checkbox. You've got three different modes: fast, balanced, and accurate, and all the options of location, rotation, scale, and perspective that you had before. So everything you had before is here. You can also show the motion vectors when you're done. Along the bottom, you have the tools for tracking. So I can track in both directions. Notice that my cursor is not in the middle of, or is in the middle of my event. It's not at the beginning or the end. And I can click the track in both directions. It'll track first in the one direction and then on the other direction. And now my motion tracking is in place. I'm not going to bother trying to play that because I didn't really, I wasn't careful about setting my mask, and my little laptop here doesn't really do all that well with motion tracking. But as I scrub through it, you can see it, the mask is following the truck as it goes by. Now, the cool part about this is that all of the tools that you need to apply this motion tracking to objects in your project, like let's say I have some text I want to track along with this, or effects, are available in this drop-down list, the Motion Track Transfer drop-down list. When I click that, you can see that my clip shows up, and I can add a Bezier masking effects to it. So some people like the fact that the motion tracker was in the Bezier masking tool because it could easily mask something and then apply tracking to it. Well, you could do the same thing here. It's just we're doing it a little bit differently. You're applying the tracking information that you've generated here to the Bezier masking effect, and we could just choose that, and now you can see it's masked out. So all the same tools are still there. You can still use them. I'm going to be talking in more detail about this motion tracking process in the coming weeks, but everything you need is right here in the motion tracking panel, and it's really more convenient and more powerful than it was before, the old way. Okay, so the motion tracking panel itself is one new feature. The ability to apply that tracking information to positionally aware OFX plugins is another new feature, and so that's really powerful stuff. The next thing we have is a couple of artificial intelligence features. So we have worked hard to integrate and implement artificial intelligence tools into Vegas Pro, and we did a lot of underlying work, and from that underlying work we came up with two initial plugins that use artificial intelligence. I'm going to put that same clip on the timeline here, and let's just make it a little bit bigger, put this in here, and I can make my preview window a little bit bigger as well, just so that you can see it a little bit more. The two artificial intelligence plugins that we now have are a stylizer plugin and a colorization plugin. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a black and white filter on this clip, and then let's get the stylizer plugin, which is over in here somewhere, style transfer, and then the colorization plugin, and that's here. Okay, so I've just added all of those plugins to my chain, and for now I'm going to turn off the black and white, and I'm going to turn off the colorization. And so what you're seeing right now is the style transfer. And if I go to preset list here, if I go to the style transfer preset list, you can see that there are many different, I didn't count them, so I don't know exactly how many different presets. But what we're doing here is we're taking the characteristics of famous paintings or famous artists, and we're applying them to your video. So if I toggle this off for a second so you can see what the video looked like initially, and then I come in and choose a few more presets. Here's a Picasso. Here's what it might look like if Picasso had painted that particular video. Here's a Van Gogh. So you can see that we take the characteristics of famous paintings or famous artists and apply them to your video. So this is really, it can really make for some very interesting effects, and it's a cool use of artificial intelligence. We're going in and we're analyzing the video, and then we're adding these stylizations to it. Now let me turn the black and white filter on. And so now we have a fully black and white clip. And what we can do now is with the colorization tool, if I turn that on, it will go through and colorize your video or your video. Now, of course, you typically use this on a vintage video, an old black and white video, but I'm kind of using the black and white filter to sort of prove the point here. So here it is, colorized, and if I turn colorization in black and white off, here it is, here's the real color of the clip. So you can see that we're going in and we are analyzing the background to find trees, analyzing the sky, here's a road, so we're making some intelligent decisions about how to color these elements. It even pretty closely gets the red of the ambulance right. So colorization and style transfer are the two first artificial intelligence features that we've introduced into Vegas Pro, and there are going to be many, many more. So hold on. In future versions of Vegas Pro, we've got a lot planned with artificial intelligence. But for now, you can use the stylize and the colorization plugins to do some pretty cool things. Okay, as long as we were talking about color, let's put the clip back in there. And let's take a look at the color grading panel. I'm going to make this a little bit taller and bring up the color grading panel. Now the color grading panel, of course, we introduced in the previous version, and we've made several improvements to the color grading panel, and let's go through a couple of those just real quickly right now. The biggest thing about the color grading panel is now you no longer have to leave it stuck to the bottom of the window as it is by default. We have a new button over here called the Pin Unpin button, and when you click that, that window becomes just a regular floating window that I can take and float anywhere on this screen or on my other screen over here, which you can't see, but I bring it back. So it can be a floating window. If I take it to the window docking area and hold down my control key, just like any other window, any other docking window, I can dock it into my window docking area. It behaves just like any other docking window once you unpin it. I can create a floating dock with it. So if I wanted to have my, for whatever reason, I wanted to bring my video preview window down here and float it in a dock with my color grading panel, I can do that. And since it's a floating window, I can resize it, I can move it, I can take it wherever I want it, just like I had before on my other monitor or whatever. So this is really a great enhancement to the color grading panel, and I'm really happy to be able to show you that we're doing that now. Also inside the color grading panel, we made some UI changes and so forth. Nothing really that I'm going to spend time showing you now, but we've taken some time to improve the UI a bit. We added a new, we improved, I should say, the exposure tool. So the exposure tool now acts in a logarithmic fashion so that it behaves much more like a camera exposure would. So if you're looking for camera-like exposure, the new exposure tool is much better than the one we had in previous versions because it acts like camera exposure does. So that's cool. We've made some big changes to the area over here in the color curves. In previous versions, this was, you come over here to do white balance. And in version 17, we made some real improvements to the white balance. But what we found out is that some of you like white balance according to some methods, and some of you like white balance according to other methods. So when we made the changes that we thought were fixing the white balance the way you wanted them, many other people were saying, no, it worked better the other way. And so what we've done now is we've made this automatic color balance tool much more than just a white balance. So if I drop this list down, you can see that I have auto color balance, auto curves, I can choose warm colors. If I want just an automatic cold, I can do that, or cool. And so you just have a lot more options in the color grading, or in the auto contrast tool now. You also have auto contrast, reduce contrast, increase, and brightness changes and shadows and so forth. So you've got a lot of functionality in this for automatic adjustments that you might want to make. And basically what we've included here are both of the methods of white balancing that we had been doing earlier, but now they're both in here, and you can choose them as you see fit. Of course, you can reset them. And notice that this button changes depending on what you chose the last time. So if I choose night, now that button becomes night. So if I want to apply the night setting to something else, I just click it instead of having to go to the drop-down list. Okay, let me reset that. We've also improved the vector scope. It's not technically part of the color grading panel, but it does open up when you open the color grading panel. So let me bring that out, and let me bring the scope up a little bit, and I'll just change it to just the vector scope. Finally, a lot of you have been asking for this for quite a while. We've added a skin tone line to the vector scope, so it's now much easier to dial in the skin tones using the vector scope. The interesting thing is that when you start researching the vector scope, you start finding out that there's some disagreement about the actual exact angle that the vector scope should be. Now, we've chosen the most common angle that people want the skin tone line to be, but others disagree and think it should be on a different angle. So what we've done, and as far as I know this is different than anybody else is doing, is we're allowing you to change the angle of the skin tone line. And you can change it to whatever you want. So if you wanted to go for some crazy alien look or something, you could set it to 90 degrees or whatever. So here it is down here now. You have full control to set it to whatever you want to set it to. I think 123, if I remember right, is the default, and so there it is. So no need to argue anymore about what the right proper skin tone line should be at. You can set it to whatever you want it to be at, and just carry on with your work. And again, I think, as far as I know, we're the only ones that allow you to do that with the vector scope. Another scope that we've improved is the RGB parade scope. So the RGB parade scope, oops, sorry, I chose the wrong one here. Let's see, here it is. The RGB parade scope normally lets you, in previous versions, showed you a separated view of the red, green, and the blue. And this is really helpful and maybe the way you want to work. But sometimes working with them in a combined setting where all three are overlaid one on top of the other gives you more information, gives you better information. And so we've included this combined mode. You can turn on and off the individual channels for the combined mode, so you can look at just one channel or all three channels, however you want to combine that. So those are some changes to the scopes in Vegas Pro 18 and the color grading panel, and there's a lot of really powerful stuff there. Now, I had planned this presentation for a half hour, but clearly I'm not even halfway through the list, so we're going to go for longer. I hope you guys don't mind if we go a little bit longer. The next thing that I want to show you is that we have, let me pin this back again and close it. We have completely redesigned the plugin windows. That would be the transitions window, the video effects window, the media generated window, and the composite window. So let's take a look at these windows and see how they look. Now, I'm going to use the effect window to show you, but they all work the same. So once you know how it works in the effects window, you'll know how they work in all the windows. And I'm not going to go into all the detail here. We'll save that for another training later, but let me just give you a quick run through. You can see that when you first come into the window, all your plugins are listed on the side. They're all there. but we've got tabs across the top. So if you want to see just your creative plugins or just your blurs, you can quickly just choose the tab you want to choose. I'll go back to all. You can mark favorites. So if you have some that you use all the time, you can just come in and click those. And then you have a favorites tab. So those 3 now appear on my favorites tab. And I can remove the favorites just as easily. On the color tab, let's go back to the all tab. Earlier I was showing you the style transfer plugin, and I was choosing presets from a list. But of course, if I had come to this window, we could easily see the presets here. So let's find style transfer. Now I could go through and I could find S's and go down to my list and find style transfer here. And that's a perfectly valid way of working. But we've created a much more powerful search engine in the video plugin window. And all I need to do is start typing, and at some point, I don't even get past the 3rd word, and already I've filtered down to just the style transfer plugin, which I can select, and the thumbnails will come up. My little laptop is really chugging along here, trying to keep up with me, but the thumbnails will come up in here, and we will wait. There they are. So here are all the different plugins, and you can see the different effects that will be applied if we apply this to the clips. So here you can come in and see all the Picassos and the Van Goghs and all the rest that we've included here in the style transfer. So again, I'm going to go into a lot more detail with the plugin window in a week or two. I don't think next week, the next week I think. But anyway, we've got that scheduled, and so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here, but this window is just so much more powerful and so much easier to find what you're looking for. Okay, so I also didn't mention that in the window you have a third-party tab. Now I don't have any third-party plugins on my system here, but if I did, those third-party plugins would show up, and what would show up in addition to that is a filter where I can filter out the plugins that I don't want to see. So for instance, if I was just looking for my Boris Effects plugins, I could filter everything else out and just have my Boris Effects filters come in. So just a lot more powerful filtering and searching in addition to the favorites that I mentioned. Okay, we've done a couple of things with HDR. There's not really a whole lot for me to show you there, but I can bring in an HDR clip and show you one thing. While I'm looking for that clip, what we've done with HDR in the background is we've got much more powerful hardware encoding through Intel for HDR footage. Let me bring this into my timeline. And the other thing that we're doing with HDR is we are automatically selecting based on the metadata of the clip that you've added. Let me set this to a HDR project. We're automatically setting the IDT setting for you, so you don't have to manually do that. And I can show you that by going to the properties of this clip, this media clip, and show you the color space is now set to the proper IDT for that, for this particular clip. So using the ACES coloring system, the first step is to make sure that your clip that you've added to your timeline is using the proper IDT. You no longer have to worry about that because we just check the metadata and set it for you. Of course, you can override it if you want to and go and choose whatever you want, but we're doing that automatically for you. One of the biggest things that we've done that's behind the scenes, and this gets really somewhat confusing and technical, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail with it, but those of you who have run into this in the past will be very happy and to see what we've done here. In the past, Vegas Pro used, by default, video levels for 8-bit projects. And there were a lot of really good reasons why Vegas Pro did that from the very beginning. But some of those reasons now, as time marches on and technology marches on, those reasons are no longer as valid as they were back 20 years ago when this was originally implemented. So we've now introduced an 8-bit full range pixel format, and we've made that the default. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you don't know what any of this means, you just don't need to worry about it. Vegas Pro is just going to do the right thing, and you can just carry on as you always have. But if you do know what I'm talking about and you've been frustrated in the past because your levels seem to be strangely configured and you had to go through a bunch of different hoops to make it do what you want it to do, we've removed all of those hoops. It just works the way you want it to work and the way it should work. If there's some reason why you want to go back to the legacy video levels, you can do that in this version of Vegas Pro. At some point, we'll probably be dropping that legacy setting, but you can do it now if you need to. So, for instance, if you're in the middle of a project and you don't want to switch to full range for whatever reason, you want to just finish out the project in the video levels, then you can easily do that by changing to the legacy plugin. But if I start a new project, let me just start a new project and go back and check, you can see that we are defaulting to the full range. And so it's just going to do the right thing, and you can just carry on as normal. We've also done a couple of other things as far as automatic settings for you. And a couple of those are related to the GPU usage. We are now automatically configuring GPU for the optimal GPU in your system. We're going to choose the GPU for you, but of course you can always visit your File I/O tab in Preferences and change the auto setting. So right now I'm defaulting automatically to Intel QSV, but I've also got an NVIDIA card in here and I could use that as well. So we're making a choice for you. If you don't like the choice, feel free to go and change it. We've also brought out an option to enable the legacy AVC decoding in case you're having some sort of problem decoding AVC on your system. Some people have found a fix in that by enabling the legacy AVC decoding method, and we've now just made that much easier to do. So just on the File I/O tab of Preferences and select the Enable Legacy AVC Decoding box. Let's see, let's talk about a couple of new video filters that we've included. We have included a denoise filter, and let's see, let's put this clip in here. So finally, Vegas has video denoising. That's not the clip I wanted. Let's just try something else. Maybe I don't have the clip I was thinking of. Let's see what this one is. Yeah, that's not it either. So I don't have clips, but basically, sorry about that. I should have been a little bit more prepared for that. But basically what we've done is we've given you tools to take out dust and scratches and so forth from your clips using the denoising filter. And if you go to Video Effects and type in denoise, then it should come up. But my computer's really bogging down here. I'm sorry, the stream is taking its toll on my little laptop. I can hear you can probably hear my fan screeching. There's the denoise filter coming up. And there's the preset. So just find it through here. The other plugin that we have is a flicker, a deflicker plugin. So if I put this coffee sign in here, and I'm going to change my preview to auto because this computer is working so hard, it's just not going to work hard. But you can see the flicker in the video when they turn the coffee sign on. And if I go back to my video effects window and choose flicker, here's my flicker control plugin. This is a new plugin. And let's just use the flicker reduction setting. And let's see if we have better results. And so you can see it's much less flickering right now. And of course, I can go in and tweak all these parameters as much as I want. So you can use the flicker control plugin to remove flicker like I did just here, or you can add flicker if you want some sort of special effect. If you want to make it look like your subject is underneath a neon light or something, you could add flicker instead of removing it. We now have support for M4V files and M4A files. No reason for me to really show you that, but just to let you know that those are there. We've made some improvements to the video capture in Vegas Pro. I'll just mention those instead of spending time looking at them, but basically we've made some engine improvements so you have better performance in the capture utility. And we've also given you the ability to configure your capture folders so that you can now determine or dictate where you want your captures to land. Let's see, some stability and video engine performance improvements we've made to Vegas Pro 18. Nothing really for me to show you there, but it's important to mention that we are constantly working on performance and stability. And so we've fixed tons of bugs and really further tweaked out the video engine so that you get better playback on the timeline. Okay, let's talk about a couple of smaller features that have come directly from the years of you guys dropping us little feature requests. And every release we try to do a few of these features that will help you work a little bit faster, a little bit more efficiently. And so let's go through a couple of those. Let me come down and grab another clip here. I'll grab that same clip I've been using. One thing that we've done is we're not persisting the project location. So what does that mean? So if I'm in here and I'm editing and I split this and I make some edits and trim this and come over here and make a crossfade and so forth, and then I leave my my editing cursor here, and then I save my project and go home for the night. In the past, when you reopen Vegas Pro, the cursor would open at the very beginning, and you'd have to get your bearings straight to try to remember where you were when you closed the application. Now we remember this location, so that I'm not going to do it now, but if I closed Vegas Pro and reopened this project, the cursor would come right back to where it was when I left off, and so I don't have to think about it anymore. I can just get started where I left off. So that's cool. We have, this is going to make a lot of people very happy, I think. We now have the ability to export and import your preferences. So in Vegas Pro 18, when you upgrade Vegas Pro 18, unfortunately, you're going to have to go and update all your preferences from where you had them in Vegas Pro 17. But for Vegas Pro 18, you'll be able to export your preference settings and then have them in a file so that if you're going to a different machine, you can bring them, you can import them into that different machine. Or if you're updating from the first release version of Vegas Pro 18 to the first update, you no longer have to worry about losing your preference settings, because all you need to do is to export them. You'll export them into a file. It just is a veg prefs file. And then when you, after you get done updating your application, then just come in and import them. So that's going to save a lot of frustration and a lot of time. And this is something that a lot of you guys have been waiting for and wanting. So I'm really, really glad to be able to tell you that we have that now for you. Next, we have a more detailed render progress dialog. And this might not make a lot of difference to some of you, but for others, it's really important to have a lot of different information during render. And let's just choose this as default, and I'll render it. And you can now see we have much more information in the render dialog box, and take a look at that and see everything that's there and available to you. So it's just cool to have all that extra information. We've also introduced in this version Incremental Project Save. So if you're working on a project and you get to a point like I am here and you're pretty happy with it, but you want to try some experimenting without losing this particular version of the project, you can now, under File, Incremental Save. And what Incremental Save does is it'll give you, well, I haven't saved this yet, so, well, I can still show it. It saves your project with the current title and puts a number at the end of it. So you can save up to 999 different versions of your project. Once you choose Incremental Save, these numbered versions will just pile up, and you can experiment all you want until you're ready to either commit to those changes, or if you get to 20 saves down the road and say, man, this just didn't turn out the way I wanted it to turn out, I want to go back to where I was, you can easily go right back to where you were following the save history. And you'll have all of those projects available to you. Okay, here's a small one, but might be interesting to some of you. We've now included trim handles on events. Now, you don't see them on these events because we've turned them off by default. But in the hamburger menu, if you choose event handles, now when I point to an event, you can see these big handles show up, and you can grab them and trim your event. So the cool thing about these, the reason these are important is just like in a situation like this, where I've got two events butt up against each other. Sometimes it was hard with these off, let's turn them off, it can be hard to know exactly which one of these events you're about to trim. And you have to really be watching the cursor to see the change. But with the event handles on, then they're on for each clip, and you can just grab hold of them and do your trimming. So turn them on with the hamburger menu, or turn them off with the hamburger menu. Okay, in addition to all of that, one more minor feature that we added to Vegas Pro, mainly because we had added it to Vegas Movie Studio, is the black bar filler. So if I add this clip to my timeline, oops, I didn't want to say yes, I want to say no to that. So this is a case where I've shot a clip with my phone in the wrong orientation, and so now I've got big black bars at the edge. And if I want to quickly fix that, I can go to my effects, I can search for black, and there's my black bar fill filter right here. And I've got several presets. I'll just drop the default on there. And it does the typical blurring in the background and gives me a little shadow. I've got all kinds of controls here about how I want to treat both the background and the foreground. I can scale the foreground. I can blur the shadow on the side of it. I can change the location of it, and so forth. So just a quick way of solving the black bar problem when somebody holds their phone the wrong way. Okay, and let's see, two more things that I want to mention quickly before I let you go here. If we go to the Media Generators tab and go to Titles and Text, we have now 30, I think there are 25 or 26 new title presets. And the old ones are all still there, but we have some of these new kinetic text presets to just give your text a little bit more modern flair. And let me just make those a little bit bigger so you can see the presets and kind of see the behavior of them. But just motion in your text, and some really cool kinetic text presets that were designed by our friend Alexander, and they're available to you here. And in addition to that, if I add one of these to my timeline and check my font list, I'm not going to point out all of them, but there are 30 fonts that we've included with Vegas Pro that you get and will just show up in your fonts list. So 30 free unique fonts that you can use, and the kinetic text presets. So there's a lot there. Yeah, so that's a quick run through of all of the new features of Vegas Pro 18. As you can see, there's a bunch there. And I'm sorry I didn't have the time to really go into detail on all of them, but I hope that you saw a lot of things here that you really like and that you can make use of in your projects. Like I said, we've been working hard. We've been listening to everything you say. I'm sure if I go check the chat here, I'll see some frustration because the feature you were waiting for didn't get implemented, or the fix that you were waiting for isn't implemented. And honestly, I'm sorry that we can't do it all at once. But I'm hoping that you recognize just how much we did accomplish in this version of Vegas Pro. And we had a great beta testing program period, and great feedback from our testers. We've got a very stable build, and we're really happy and excited to present it to you now. Again, we're going to be doing these trainings every Monday for the rest of August. I don't remember what next week's training is, but I think it focuses on Vegas Post Suite, one of the applications from Vegas Post Suite. And so I look forward to seeing you in next week's training. As I was saying that, I remember one very important thing I forgot to say about Vegas Pro 18. I can hardly believe I forgot to say this, but when you buy Vegas Pro 18 and Vegas Pro 18 Suite, in addition to all the stuff I just showed you, and in addition to all the stuff that's coming that I talked about earlier with the hub and so forth, you also get a full version of SoundForge Pro 14. SoundForge Pro, many of you know, is industry standard tool for audio, multi-channel audio editing. When you combine SoundForge Pro 14 with the audio power in Vegas Pro 18, you've got an incredible audio powerhouse at your fingertips when you have Vegas Pro 18. And of course, SoundForge Pro just interacts beautifully with Vegas Pro. You just right-click an audio event and choose Open a Copy in SoundForge or Open in SoundForge. It'll open SoundForge for you, bring your audio file in there, let you edit it, save it in SoundForge, come back to Vegas Pro, and it's just updated. It's a beautiful workflow, and it works really well. So I can't believe I almost forgot to mention that, because that's really big news, and especially if those of you who do a lot of audio work, you're going to love SoundForge with its ability to do audio design, denoising, all the tools that it's famous for. They're all available to you now with your purchase of Vegas Pro 18. Okay, so as usual, Vegas Pro 18 is available as a perpetual license or in a couple of different subscription models. So choose the one that works for you. And of course, you can always download a trial version to test it out before you commit to it. But I think you're going to love what you see in Vegas Pro, and we're listening. If you have anything you'd like to tell us about Vegas Pro 18, if you have any problems that you want to mention that we can help fix or help you solve, we're listening. Our customer support and tech support guys are always available, and we're always watching out on the forums and listening to what you have to say. So thanks very much for joining me today. Sorry about my brain glitch at the beginning that made me sit here and talk for 2 minutes without you hearing me, but hopefully we got through that all right. And hopefully you'll tune in next week, and we will see you then for more live training. Thank you, and so long.